Hey, welcome to the Epicenter, where we're going to continue exploring what does it look like to be the epicenter of the boom. Hey, welcome into the Epicenter. I'm joined once again by my partner, Roswell Smith Jr.
Hey, what's up, man? Ready to get after it again.
Yes, sir. How you doing this morning?
Doing good, man. Excited to be here at Beating Bow Studios, man.
Yep.
Give them a shout out.
Yep. We got a different background today, but
as you can see,
thankful for just, man, people that are just awesome.
Yeah.
Hillside's been awesome to us, letting us record inside their church, on the stage, and allowing us to have that amazing background, all the good things. But they're setting up for more of like a Christmas feeling there, and so we asked Rick Beatonbow if we could use this space, and he said, "Absolutely, man, come on in." You know,
team players, bro.
Team players, so much. So I want to touch back on Patrick Solis. Man, he brought such an incredible story,
right?
And we saw how he admitted, I was a slave to my business. And that's one of the things that I think that is so crucial that we dive into. The deeper we go with this, the more I want to dive into these thoughts and these concepts and really these releasing. I want to release guys. And I feel like that's what the Spirit wants us to do, is release guys from this feeling of feeling like, man, I'm a slave to my business. And maybe you didn't even recognize that you were a slave to your business. I didn't.
Right.
You know, but as time went on, God just began to reveal things, and I began to put my faith and trust in Him to help me steward and understand my business and be out in front of me, paving a path and all these different things. And so whenever He told me, man, I never called you into business to be a slave to that business, ever, man, it just has resonated with me for so long. And I think today is the day that we dive into the depth of that. We got a lot of cool things on deck. We're going to talk about, man, we're going to hit on a song.
From now
on. Don't jump already and go listen to that. Don't turn us off.
You
got to hear all this, but man, there's going to be some crazy revelations, I think, that come out of today.
Yeah, I would agree, man. Solis, Patrick's testimony, if you remember, go back and listen to that recording. That episode was powerful. It just kind of brought out the whole, like, slavery or being a slave to a business and then being free from that mentality. It kind of really brought out the contrast of those two things. And I felt like today, as we kind of dive into your story, right? And then it's even some scripture, John 8. And so even all throughout the Bible, I mean, there are scriptural details about what we're called to be. We're called to be free. And I think that when you go back and listen to some of that testimony that Patrick shared, man, it's going to show you. I think there's a lot to be said about, for our generation especially, man, guys who grind, who hustle, but how to be able to look at the lens of Christ, and put that line in the sand. Nope, I'm not going past that line. That's slavery over there. That's not what God's called me to do. It's not why God blessed me with a business, right? It's not why God gave me this awesome opportunity, these ideas, not to be a slave, to be bound, but to be free, right? To be free in it. And I think that in your story, they're going to hear some of that. Like, what does it mean to truly, walk out freedom within your business, right? What does it look like? So, man, go ahead and share it, man. It's powerful, bro.
So, if you've listened to any of the previous episodes, especially episode 1 and 2, then you're going to know that, very early on when God called us into this, man, I was struggling, getting up at 5 a.m. to go in and just grind it out. And I think that's part of, culture will tell you if you're a solid businessman, then you got to grind, and you just got to work all kinds of hours, and if you're not, then you know all these different things, and the culture will tell you if you want to measure up as a business guy,
that's right, bro.
Then you're like, how many hours you working, how much you doing, all these kind of things. But the reality is Christ came against that cultural mindset, right? Because that's how the devil attacks. And so in Matthew 7, he says all the time, he says over and over, you've heard it said, but I tell you.
Yes.
You've heard it said, but I tell you, right? And he just keeps repeating that, and he says, no, I'm going to bring clarity to what you've heard, and I'm going to set you free. And that was his whole purpose of coming here, was to set us free, right? So as I'm struggling through, and I shared it in that first episode, man, I was sitting out in my truck and just overwhelmed, and I thought, Lord, why have you done this? What are we doing? And I did not want to go into work. I just had so much piling up, and it just was like my desk just kept getting deeper and deeper and deeper. Well, then he had me call on him, and I was in my truck, and I said, I serve the Lord God Almighty, you know. And
something rose up in you.
Yep. And man, I began to realize there was a difference in what I was doing, and it was this process, right? And one of the things that I don't want guys to do is I don't want them to get out in front of the Lord. Right? He's got a plan, and so I'm not saying move without seek the Lord first with everything that you do inside your business. But as he began to lead me, I got to this place where he said, you need to hire Scott. And all of a sudden, Scott calls me the next day, out of the blue, out of nowhere.
Yeah, no text messages, just unprompted.
Unprompted.
Yeah,
we hadn't talked in months at all. And he said, man, I've been thinking if you ever need to hire anybody, I'd love to come work for you. And I was like, huh.
That's crazy, yeah.
And just one day prior, I'd heard that, and so I was like, well, and so I delayed a little bit. My faith wasn't quite there. But then I hired him, and then all of a sudden, God brought the resources, right? More jobs began to come in just like that. And it was awesome to watch. Well, then the same thing happens with Steve, who comes on as a guy who helps on the backside, on the office side, all this kind of stuff. Well, I began to realize that had I not stepped out in faith and trusted the Lord in that prompting, then there's no way I'm on that bus headed to Glorieta, New Mexico, for God to reveal this whole concept so that you and I are in this room together right now. Sharing these thoughts and these patterns and these ideas and all the things that the Lord is bringing our way. If I don't step out in faith and trust God in that, and trust that He's got a better plan than what I've got, because I'll be honest, I'm a tightwad. I've had people say, "Man, your shoes squeak when you walk," all that kind of stuff. So, like, I have a natural tendency to want to hold on,
kind of withhold,
withhold. And make sure and make sure that everything's there. All my dollars are accounted for. But when the Lord is leading, it doesn't always make sense.
Right. Not to us, at least.
Not to us. Yeah, not to us. But he's out in front of us. He's out there and he's prompting, and if it's the Lord prompting you, then you need to go out and you need to do what he's asking you and telling you to do, right? So then, we move along and business is going good, and I'm watching, Scott, he's doing his deal, Steve's doing his deal. Well, then God just begins to bring more people onto our team. And this was never the plan that Brandy and I talked about. We were talking about just being...
And Brandy is his wife, so she's my partner in the business, so...
Yeah, she does all the design. She's a secret sauce. Just so you know, like, without
Mama
her...
said, hold on, this ain't the plan.
Yeah, and so, our plan was just to be a home builder, build a few homes a year, or 5 homes a year, whatever the case may be. But ultimately, God had something different for us, and we had to trust in that, and we had to have faith in that, And so fast forward to this year, it was about May. This guy emails me out of the blue. He either emailed me or called me. I wish I remembered, but he emailed me and he said, hey, I was on your website and God told me I'm supposed to come work for you.
Yikes.
And I thought,
Yeah.
I'm not going to put it past God, but I haven't heard that call.
Right.
He hasn't told me that, I'm supposed to hire you. I said, but let me go in prayer about that. Let me see what the Lord has to say. Well, this guy was a worship pastor at his church, faithful man, all these different things. And so I was like, all right, let me check this out. So we start talking, and he tells me he needs to make a certain amount. And I was like, dude, I was thinking about hiring somebody, but nowhere near that salary.
Right.
Nowhere near it. And he had a very good career at Southwest Airlines, like 25 years at Southwest.
Wow.
All this kind of stuff. And so I was like, man, I can't pay you that. And he goes, well, I may be able to come down a little bit, and I said, man, that's still more than what we were planning to do, And so my wife and I, Brandy, were talking one day at Taco Villa, which shout out to Taco Villa, man. Hey, you got to get you some, if you're in love, you got to get some Taco Villa.
Great tacos there.
Yeah. So anyway, we're sitting at Taco Villa, we're talking, and we're talking through this, and she goes, well, what about Isaac? Well, Isaac was this guy that we had tried to help put into the paint business. He was a phenomenal painter, right? And so I wanted to help him out, and so I bought a rig, and we started giving him some of our jobs, and he hired some guys, and we wanted to be a blessing to him and help him launch and boom out, right?
Right.
And ended up, there were some things that ended up not working out for him, and he got out of the paint business with us and just went back to work for another guy, and I felt like a failure and didn't really understand. Well, then it all began to make sense. That was like a year prior to all this.
Right.
And I was like, Isaac would be the perfect perfect person for that position.
Mm-hmm.
And so I began to talk to Isaac, and we sit down, and it's a great fit for both of us. And I'm like, all right, great. Well, Steve and I are talking, and he goes, what about Bobby? And I was like, what about Bobby? He goes, man, he might make a great fit for this too. And I was like,
shout out to B.O.B.
Yeah. And so I was like, well, maybe I'll interview him, and just see what happens. So Bobby comes in, we sit down, and we get into some conversation, and man, we're just all passionate about Boom and what can happen out of this and all that. And so I told Bobby, I said, man, I don't know what we're going to do. But I said, we'll pray about it, and I'll see where the Lord leads.
Yep.
So I'm for sure on Isaac. And so I call Isaac and I say, hey, man, you got the job. Let's start you on Monday.
Wow.
Well, then Saturday rolls around the next day, and Jamie calls me back. He texts me, actually. He said, hey, do you have some time to talk today? And I said, yeah, sure, I'll give you a call. So I call him, and he goes, man, the Lord got a hold of me today. He said, I'm taking you through transition, and you can do this by choice, or you can do it by force.
Dang.
And
Wow.
he goes, I'm in by choice.
Yeah,
he goes,
bro.
I don't want to be on the other side of that, right?
If I heard God say that, but hey, hold on, wait a minute.
Yeah. And so he goes, I'm in by choice. He goes, whatever you need to pay me, I'm in.
Wow.
And I said, man, I just hired somebody yesterday. I said, we were only planning to hire one, so, but I don't even know what to tell you, but we hired somebody. And he goes, all right, man. And I hung up the phone, and I just heard the voice of the Lord. He said, hire all three. And I thought,
Boy.
hire all three?
Oh, man.
I was like, I was talking about hiring one,
Right.
And, but he said hire all three. So
Yeah,
I called
man.
him back, and I said, hey, listen, I said, here's what I can do.
Yeah.
I said, the Lord's leading out in this. I'm a little bit nervous about it, but I said, if the Lord is leading, that's what we're going to do.
Yep.
So we hire Isaac. I call Bobby. Bobby comes on. And then Jamie starts in October of this year.
Remember that? Yep.
Well, when Jamie started, it all began to make sense because it just created more freedom inside of our company for
Wow.
everybody.
Wow.
Scott, who was stressed out because of some of the on-site stuff, now stepped into his true role of VP of operations.
Yeah, that's good.
Jamie steps in, and we begin to train him. He's a builder out on the job sites. Brendan's a builder out on the job sites. Scott's overseeing those guys. Isaac's doing his deal. It's freed me up. It's freed Scott up. It's freed Isaac, all the guys. Steve's more freed up because he's got an assistant and a girl named Liz, who's his niece. And it's just been this incredible ride, right? And I'm sitting here today looking at it, and I'm like, man, never in a million years did I think I would have a team of 6 or 7.
Right.
This was originally planned to be me and Brandy.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
And that was it, and God had a different plan. And so, but through that, what I've realized, man, is He has set us free inside of our business.
Right.
I don't have the stresses that I used to at the very beginning of this thing because I trusted Him. He had a different plan. As I hired these 3 guys, man, God really began to challenge me. I love cliche sayings and like totally just like destroying them, right? So you'll hear guys say all the time, man, God said, God's the CEO of my business.
Right.
And I just want to ask back, is He really?
Yeah.
Is He really the CEO of your business? Because I want you to step into my little world here for just a second.
That's right.
And God, as the CEO of my business, said hire all 3. Was I'm looking at it as the one who's stewarding the business and looking at the numbers and the financials and all those things. It did not make any sense to me whatsoever
Right.
to hire all 3. But that's what the Lord said to do. So if He's the CEO of my business and He comes back in 6 months and He says, hey, Keith, how are Bobby, Isaac, and Jamie doing? And I say, well, I didn't hire them. I got into the numbers and it didn't make sense.
Right.
And so I decided just to hire one of them. And he would look at me and he would say, whoa, hold on just a second.
Right.
I told you to hire all 3.
Yeah, but I said hire all 3. Right.
I had plans that in 6 months we were going to execute, but these dudes had to be in place
That's right.
in order to make that happen.
That's right.
Who are you, man? Get out of here, right? I'd be fired.
The whole conversation, right? Yep.
I would be fired,
Yep.
right? Because my CEO told me to take a step. Well, I think that as we look at it, we have a hard time sometimes grasping that whole concept of God speaking to us. God,
get into that. Yes, good.
God, God directed me to do this or God directed me to do that. And it's been a process for me to be able to hear the Lord's voice and to be able to trust. But it took me stepping out in faith in order to see all that through and for him to really reveal what he had planned, right? Because my mind is so much smaller than his mind, right? He's got a kingdom mind, and I've got my worldly mind, and those don't always match up.
Well, this what you're describing, your testimony and Patrick's as well, is just kind of get into the mechanics of, what does God, as truly being owner of it, what does he know that I don't know? What does he see that I cannot see, right? And really, what does he understand that I have no capacity to understand? And that's where it kind of shifts. Is some guys just really haven't had that encounter yet, or haven't heard and haven't really submitted, right, to the space of, okay, God, it's yours. You're the owner. It's not mine no more. But the mechanics of it, when you really step back from the drama of it all and think through it, God is ahead of me because he's sovereign, right? He's more, his creativity is higher than mine.
Always.
And then the resources, right? Yep. So God owns it all. Even if we don't understand what that even, means.
Yeah.
God has the power and the ability to literally make things happen. And so I think that hearing your story, for those who are kind of wrestling with, man, how in the world did you hear God say hire all three, and how'd you trust him? Is that for you, and I saw some of that happen. I was kind of on the back end of some of that.
Yeah, you were right.
And I'm watching and getting these messages, hey man, God said hire all three. Like, what in the world? And so, but what I perceive to be true is that there is a DNA and there is a mindset or a faith, belief, right? A trust. That's the word, a trust that you have anchored in Christ. And you have submitted your business to him and said, too good, build is yours.
Yeah.
And really, God has held you accountable. Okay, if it is, hire all three. But behind the scenes, though, the mechanics of like, what is he doing, is that there were home buyers that you had no idea existed that just started showing up, calling your office, emailing you guys. I remember one time I went to the office and you were in this meeting looking real perplexed, and there was a couple, and I'm like, man, why is he looking like that? And I walked out. I think we either called or talked or texted, and I remember you saying, they just walked out the street, man. I had no clue what was going on. They want a house being built. That was in that season, right, where you didn't have the awareness, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And that's what it's going to take. If you're out there and you're hearing this and you're like really at the line of it being yours versus it being God's, that's what it's going to require of you. It's going to require of you a real, okay, God, I trust you with it. And I think that's an important point that Patrick made and you're making even now.
Yeah. Well, and it's bigger than the business itself.
Okay.
The whole thing is bigger than the business itself, right? Because ultimately, I didn't call you into business to be a slave to that business.
Right.
I called you into business because I knew that you were capable and had the mindset and had the ability the wiring to advance my kingdom.
Yeah.
Because you have the ability to organize as a business owner. You have the ability to create systems, to organize, to impact people, all the different things. Well, what good is a lamp if you go and you put a bowl over it, right?
Put it under a table, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
that's good.
Like, we are called to go out to be a light inside this thing, and I think it ultimately, we tap on this all the time, but identity and understanding, man, this is not about how much money can you make for yourself, how much, all these different things, right? That's not what business is about.
Right.
He put you in this place so that you can advance his kingdom and take it to a different level and awaken people. And I can't tell you how many stories as I've shared Boom with them, a simple concept about how they're wired and called to advance God's kingdom. Man, it just lights them up.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they get set free and they're like, whoa, there's more to this than just going out and grinding every day.
Yep.
But the culture tells you that, just go grind every day. Go grind. But the kingdom says, no, I tell you, go out and advance my kingdom, go light people on fire, go be a lamp, go be a difference maker, and watch what happens.
I'm so glad you said that. So being free and being a light, right? And this awakening that people experience, John, the Gospel of John 8, Jesus talks about freedom, right, and slavery, and it's in, I'm not gonna read all of it, but it's kind of a long read, but John 8, right around the 32nd verse, it's a well-known verse that we all know. We see it on t-shirts, coffee mugs, you've probably seen it all throughout church your life, through books you've read or sermons you've heard, but it's the truth will make you free verse. And listen to this, how crazy this is, and juxtaposed to what Keith just said. So this idea of being called into freedom, right, of being called into a business model where you can actually be free and your employees can be free, right? And anyone that's tied to your operation, right? Whatever system you've in place, there's freedom there. Crazy idea, but very, very, very realistic. Verse 31 says in John 8, so Jesus was saying to those Jews who believed him, they believed already, if you continue in my word, then you are my disciples truly. Verse 32, and you will know the truth, and the truth will make you free.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so that's the promise, is that when you abide in Christ and you do it his way, on the other side of that, right, when you step over that line, there's freedom there, but you won't experience it until you really walk with him. And so I think it was Beaton Bow, which we're here right now in Beaton Bow. So bad. Beaton Bow Studios, man. Give them a good shout out. So Rick Beaton Bow mentioned to me about a month and a half ago, we were talking about just the whole idea of like Christian business. And he said, well, you can't just take the name of Christ and slap it on your business and say, oh, it's a Christian business. And he was like, we would never call ourselves a Christian company, but we're a kingdom-based company. And the difference is that you can't slap Christ on your label and expect the benefits of his kingdom to be in full mode. You got to actually submit it to him. It's got to be kingdom in there. You got to have a what's the word? A DNA, right? It has to rest in you and on you in order for you to experience that freedom. And that's all he's saying in John 8 right there. There's a place where I think Too Good built. Keith and you and your wife have taken the model, the systems, and you said it's yours, right? You've gone all in, and then you're experiencing these radical, crazy calls of hiring 3 people when like it doesn't make any sense, but now it makes sense.
Now it makes complete sense.
As soon as old buddy went into his mode, you said we saw it, right?
Yeah,
unbelievable.
We saw, it all got revealed.
Right, it's crazy.
It just all became completely clear. Well, 5 months prior to that, it was not clear. And I was like, but at the same time, because of the things that the Lord has done in our business and the smaller steps of faith at the beginning, they said, hey, hire Scott, hire Steve. And then, just these little, hey, go do that spec home, or, I've got different things for you to do. It's become easier for me to step out in that faith. And I'm not a proponent of saying, I'll just do this so that your life is easier and now all these people are doing all this work. Well, what I began to realize is, like we talked about earlier just a bit ago, and you touched on it, was the freedom that's happened inside of our business as well.
Right.
Because now we've got guys backing up guys, and so if you go, if Scott goes out of town, or his different things in life happen, or whatever the case may be, then he's not coming back to a workload that's just unbearable, right? We've got, it's a team. A team has been created, and if you look at Jesus, he didn't just have 1 or 2 guys or just by himself. I think he modeled the perfect business setup for us, right?
I would agree.
He had 3 guys that were his right-hand dudes, right? His inner circle, the top guys, the executives, if you will, Peter, James, and John. And then he had these other guys, and they were all stewarding, but then he was able to get away and get free so that he could clear his mind, spend time with the Father, so that he could direct them and lead them in the way of how to run his business, which was the ministry. And so I think as we dive into this concept, man, I think that we're not saying don't be a hard worker. No, we're saying work hard.
Come on.
But we're saying work smart. And I remember my dad saying that all the time, man. Work smarter, not harder.
That's right.
Or I think that's the term. Is that the terminology?
Well,
I'm drawing a blank right now.
Even as guys who play ball, we know the athletic. When the older you get, you got to be careful with how hard you go, because any NFL guy would tell you, man, now their regimen and training is actually smarter, not harder. They don't just go to the gym, as they elevate in their career. What a concept, right? Kingdom wise, as you elevate in your career and make more money, get more opportunities, you actually train smarter. You don't go to the gym longer. You don't put your body through more pain. You actually get smarter. As the same way in the kingdom, right? The same way. We have to really be mindful of the fact that God is not calling us as we elevate and grow to put ourselves in more strenuous positions, right? Take on more jobs and more hours. That
grind.
That's not hustle and grind.
Yeah.
That's foolishness. Hustle and grind is, hold on, man, let me take a step back and look at this. So more hours here means less time for my family. Can't do that, right? So what it means is I've got to figure a way to be smarter. I've got to figure a way to scale back or to scale up, in a sense. I think for you, man, again, another shout to you, man. You get up at 5 a.m. now and you've
Yes.
taken your schedule and totally done this to it, and you just every week, man, I was feeling more freedom to celebrate. I've got time for this. I've got time for this. Remember, y'all can hear it in your heart,
Yeah.
coming out of you, man, as you
Yeah.
talk like.
So
talk about that,
for
brother.
3 weeks, the last 3 weeks, I have totally changed and flipped my schedule.
Right.
Literally flipped it upside down and just took a complete relook and said, Lord, lead me through my schedule so that I can have a better understanding. And it was prompted really through just something that I saw and that I began to take to the Lord. Well, instead
Right.
of going and working out at 5 a.m., and then rushing home and helping the kids get ready for school, and then
Right.
dropping them off, and then starting my day at 8:30, and then it's just like the grind was on. And then because I have a team, I've got people that, they're self-sufficient in so many ways, but there are times where I'm needed, obviously,
Yep.
as the one who's steering the ship, looking out into the waters and saying, all right, where are we headed? Where are we going?
Right.
And I still am needed. Well, what's ended up happening is I went in, and instead of going to work out at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m., I've started going to the office at 5 a.m. with zero distractions, none. Literally able to, dude, I'm pounding out things in 2 hours in the morning,
Yep.
still going home at 7, and hanging out with the kids and eating breakfast with them or helping them get ready,
Wow.
take them to school,
More freedom
and more freedom.
with your kids, yeah.
And then I go and I drop them off at school, and I work for 8:30 till about 11:30 or so, and then I take a long lunch, and I'll go 11:30 to 2. In the restaurant world, they call it a split.
That's right.
And so
That's right,
I
bro. A
incorporated,
double.
or a double. I incorporated my life from the restaurant world, incorporated it here. Well, now I go work out at 12:15 on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. On Tuesday, Thursday, I'll either go take a nap,
Yeah.
literally in the middle of the day. And
on,
I
man.
know that sounds completely foreign to some of you out there, but I literally, because our team is in place now, there's a freedom for me personally,
Yep.
for them as well. It's just, there's been freedom all throughout our business.
Yeah.
I didn't call you into business to be a slave to that business.
Yeah.
Ever.
Come on.
Ever.
Yep.
I called you into this business so that you could advance my kingdom. So one morning recently, this was several months ago, one of my favorite movies, and I might have some dudes judge me for this, but don't judge too hard now, because this movie
Right.
is bad to the bone.
Be careful with it.
The Greatest Showman.
Yep.
It's a musical.
Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman. And the first time I went, I didn't know it was a musical. And I, as a man, right?
Sure,
We say
sure.
these things, we got to keep our masculinity.
It's all
and
good. Hey,
whatever,
man, Hugh
right?
Jackman was Wolverine,
Hey.
so you can't get too
Hey,
far off the path.
But listen,
it's good, man.
So
Yeah,
I went and watched this movie, and man, as soon as the first number came on, I was like, oh no. No, the musical, because I'm not really the musical type
Right.
of guy, right?
Right.
So we watched this movie, and then the more I sit on it and and I'm like, man, that was actually a pretty good movie,
Right.
And so then my wife, man, she gets on the soundtrack, and if you haven't ever heard the soundtrack, dude, it's
it's
bumping,
definitely-
yeah,
yeah,
it's
it's
good,
crazy.
yeah, it's really good. So she's listening to the soundtrack all the time, and I mean, it's like every day. And then we got young kids, and so they just like hearing the same thing sometimes. So
Yep.
it was like every time in the car, it was
Yeah,
it was The
kids won't
Greatest
repeat,
Showman.
bro. Songs will be going
Repeat.
4 or 5 times. Y'all
Yeah.
still want the song?
Yeah, and so
hilarious.
these songs started getting stuck in my head, and I
Yep.
started like singing the tunes, and we watched the movie again, and I loved it. Well, as I began to watch this movie, I actually saw a lot of truth layered into this. This is not a Christian movie, but there is so much layered inside of there that has the Holy Spirit all over it. So one morning, I'm just feeling a little bit riled up or whatever, and I start singing the song in the house from now on.
Wow.
And just having a good old time. My kids are like, what are you doing? And, all the different things. And
Sure.
But I'm just having a good old time one morning, and I'm singing that song. Well, we listened to it all the way on the way to school, and the kids are singing, I'm singing. And God just reveals to me that song has got him all over it. And you begin to take out the scene that's there
Yeah.
and what the movie was portraying.
Right.
And you begin to break this song down. And dude, it is one of the most powerful songs
I would agree.
I've ever heard in my
I would
life.
agree. I would agree, yeah.
And it speaks to this subject right here, right? So in the movie, Hugh Jackman has gone along and, he's doing his deal, and he's pursuing, and he's chasing, and he's grinding, and he's working, and he's traveling, and he's doing all these things. And he's left his family behind. He even gets in a situation where another lady is like coming on at him,
Challenged,
and
yeah.
he's challenged. And man, everything comes crashing down. everything. And he's sitting there, and he's in the movie, he's in the bar. And he's having drinks, and he's just completely broken.
Wow.
Completely broken. Well, then he starts to sing this song, and we're going to go through the lyrics a little bit. And then at the end of this, do not dial out. I need you to listen to this song, because this song, and we're just going to end it with the song.
Yep.
And that's it. And we're just going to let you resonate on it, digest it, and think about it. But we're going to break this song down. So in this song, he actually goes from a brokenness
Right.
to a repentance
Yep.
to an awakening
Yeah.
to a peace.
To a piece. Yeah. In that
To a
order,
piece.
huh? You see,
Yes.
see the process. Wow.
Yeah, you see it in the song.
That's pretty well described. Yeah, the movie. When you watch the movie, yeah, great film. Yeah, you're right. There is a process there that he gets kind of taken through. I'm surprised it's not a Christian film, bro. Like,
Yeah.
I'm looking like, man, hold on, man. God is all over this.
It's
and then,
all over it.
And in the song, like, some of y'all might judge us, but I'm telling you, you play this song, you be in trouble. This thing will catch a hold of your heart. And
Hey, you're going to start tapping your foot.
you be like, I'm not crying, you're crying. It's some strong stuff in there, man. It's heavy stuff.
Yeah.
And I tell you, and I think that's something that, in this theme of belief and freedom and slavery, and and it pertains to your business, I think it's so vital, to just at this first part of the year, right, that we're kind of in, is to take an account and do an audit on your own life. I mean, much like Keith did, his rhythm of, getting up in the morning and finding his day so stressed and so pressed, versus the upside down model. He wakes up and has more time with his children, has more freedom with his schedule, even to the point where you're taking siestas, bro. It's called a siesta. When you take a nap, bro, midday.
In the middle of the day.
Somebody didn't know that, but it's called a siesta.
Hey, I'll go ahead.
Trust God with your business and get siestas on. I promise you, that's a different level of freedom, man. But
Well, I've gone to lunch with I've had more dates with my wife.
Bro.
We'll have lunch dates, and we'll go, and then we've gone.
More freedom.
We've gone, and we've literally here recently with Christmas, we actually went and we would kidnap our kids.
Oh, wow.
From school, go grab them.
Wow, yeah.
They have no idea that we're coming.
Surprise, yeah.
And grab them for lunch, and then we'll take them to go get their one of their sibling gifts.
Right.
And then we return them to school. It's like, I started calling it Mission Impossible, because we have 1 hour to get lunch and get a gift.
little adventure
for their
in there.
kid. Yeah, a little adventure.
So all joking aside, I mean, it truly is there's joy and freedom. Think about what it means to be free, and what it means think about when you first got saved. This is a good dialogue. When you first got delivered, that moment, right? We all had that moment when it happens for real, right? Mm-hmm. And it's not just church crying emotion. It's like, you've had a true heart transformation. Think about the joy and the freedom and the newness that you felt. You felt like something that was a pep in your step, as the old folks in the church used to say, right? It was a joy about you. There was a light about you, and even people would look at you probably and say, man, there's something on you that's different. It's Christ. Mm-hmm. It's Christ in us. That's what we're talking about. Make no mistake, we're not just talking about some cultural idea of loosening your schedule and being, no, we're talking about a true, from the inside out, God, this is yours. This life, this business, it belongs to you. And watch what he does with it.
Yeah.
Just watch what he does with it. It's powerful. And that movie does kind of, draw that out for us.
It does.
Theatrically, right?
Yep.
Through Hugh Jackman's role.
Yeah,
in that
because
movie.
he just goes through he gets to the highs. I mean, this dude, he started out at some of the lows. I mean, some of the lowest of lows as far as his upbringing and all those things. Like, he was in those times, he was more of a servant. Like, his family came from a servant background kind of thing. It was just like, he in the class system, he was the lower class, right? Yeah. And then he's got these dreams, and he wants to marry this girl who's from a higher class or whatever, right? Yep. So he marries her, and the dad is upset. Well, they're just living this life, and he gets this idea to start this circus and, all this kind of stuff. So then he begins to chase it, and he's chasing the money. And in this song, I'm going to read some of the lyrics, some of the ones that I want you to be aware of. But he says, what remains? Well, it says, when the glitter fades and the walls won't hold, because from then rubble what remains can only be what's true. If all was lost, there's more I gained, because it led me back to you.
Lord have mercy. That's actually in the song.
That's in the song. Because it led me back to you. And it's this brokenness, right? And I've said time and time again, until you have an encounter with Christ or you reach a broken level, there's a lot of times that he's not going, you may not feel it because you think, I can do this. I'm a self-made man. I can power through this. I can grind. I can do this, right?
Right.
But it's in the brokenness, and it's in his brokenness
Yeah.
that he says, man, it led me back to you.
That's crazy.
So he says, from now on, these eyes will not be blinded by the lights. From now on, what's waited till tomorrow starts tonight. Starts tonight. He's creating a moment in his life and saying, it's now.
Yeah.
It's not going to wait anymore. I've said it before, but it's today. It's
Sounds
tonight.
like Nicodemus, bro. I mean, well, what's the guy's name? Zacchaeus, right? And
Yeah.
The short down the
Yeah.
tree and, hey, man, tonight at your house for dinner.
That's right.
Look what happened. Wow,
Yep.
that's powerful.
Let this promise in me start like an anthem in my heart. From now on, from now on. Now listen to this. He's going to recap his life. He says, I drank champagne with kings and queens. The politicians praised my name. But those are someone else's dreams, the pitfalls of the man I became. For years and years, I chased their cheers, the crazy speed of always needing more.
Whew. Wow.
But when I stop and see you here, I remember who all this is for.
Right.
It's all for him, man.
Yeah.
The whole thing, the business, all of it. All of it. At the end of the
Yeah.
day, none of it goes with us.
Yeah.
None of it. None of it.
That's right.
So
That's right.
it's all his.
Yeah.
And so Rick Beatonbow and I have been talking a lot lately. He's become one of my great friends,
Yeah.
mentor.
Yeah, bro. I bet he's pouring into you a
All
lot.
of it, man.
Yeah, all the wisdom.
I love it.
Sure.
And so he says, I mean, it's the Lord's money. Ask him what he wants to do with his money. And I'm like, you're right.
Wow, man.
It's the Lord's money. What do you want to do with it?
Yeah.
You know? And so I think as I began to really process this song, man, it speaks so true to what we see today in our culture.
Yeah.
You know, and you got to grind, you got to go, you got to do this, and man, and God's up there being like, all right, grind, do what you want to do, you know, but at some point,
Yeah.
it may come crashing down, and you're gonna realize that I was not in it,
Yep.
and I'm gonna bring a realization that this is all about me. It's not about you.
You know, as we close, man, it's a picture of what we're trying to describe to y'all, what I've kind of likened it to, the best way possible. You know, right now, the big thing out, you know, is Pelotons, treadmills, and nothing wrong with those. Those are great, right? The interactive phase. But yet and still, when it comes to real life, real business, real like activity, right? Movement, that actually has a purpose and a meaning and an outcome that's going to benefit you and those around you. Not just you, but like how you said, your team was all blessed. It's a picture of a treadmill. On the treadmill, you might run for 10 minutes, half an hour, and you might have sweat, a puddle of sweat around you, and you might have burnt all these calories, but you haven't gone anywhere, right? Haven't really moved. You've kind of been in the same spot. Versus somebody who gets out and gets that same sweat, gets that same movement, burns those same calories, but they've seen, they've actually ran a course, a path, may have ran a trail, right? Got to see what's around them, got to go through a journey. And that's what we're trying to paint for y'all, is this idea of don't be a treadmill person, like in this paradigm of business, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Don't be on this grind and hustle and have nothing to show for it but your sweat, your blood, and your tears. With no journey, with no vision, with no real path, with no real outlook. Give it to God and say, man, I'm jumping off this treadmill and I'm going all in and I'm following you and I'm gonna run with you so my sweat can have equity, right? That'll preach right there, boy. So my energy, so what if all of our spent can actually have purpose and meaning to it? That's what we're talking about, and I think that's a very stark difference from what we see in the world. Well, a lot of us, I say us because I've been on that treadmill before as well, right? Working my tail off, trying to figure out a way to get ahead and hold on. And when Jesus is saying, nah, man, move on from that. Like, don't stop trying to hold on and move on, right?
Let go.
Yeah, let it go.
Let it go.
That's a good word. Yeah, to preach too, but let it go. And like, man, your powerful story of just like, no more, you know, no more. And then the infamous Too Good quote, God never gave you a business for you to be a slave to that business, ever.
Ever.
I love that, man, quote, man. That's a powerful quote.
Yep.
So that's what we're saying,
Yeah. So as you listen to this song, there's another set of lyrics. You're going to actually see the brokenness at the beginning, the repentance where he's like, man, it's all about you. It led me back to you, right? And then you begin to see this awakening or this revival, and you hear it in the song. Like the song leads you through it perfectly, right?
Right.
And then it's going for a couple minutes, and you're hearing this awakening or the repentance happening in them. And then here comes the choir behind them,
Yeah,
right?
man.
Oh man, and they just bring it, you
Yep.
know, and it just goes to a different level, and it's the awakening, the revival in him. And they start saying, "And we will come back home, and we will come back home,
Right.
home again."
Yeah.
And they just keep repeating it, and they keep repeating it, and it's, to me, it's almost a picture of the prodigal son running
man, I
back
see that.
into the father's arms.
right.
And he's like, "I'm home, man.
Coming back, yeah.
I'm home." You know, and the father doesn't reprimand him. He doesn't
Right.
anything. He just welcomes him in, and he says, "Welcome back."
Yeah.
Put the ring on his finger,
Yeah,
you know, and he just begins
Celebrate
to
him.
they celebrate, and they kill the calf, and you know they're gonna have a party.
Yeah,
right.
that's right.
And that's what God desires out of us in our businesses, is to say, "Lord, I'm no longer gonna be a slave
Right.
to this business. I chased it. I chased the cheers. I chased drinking with kings and queens, big time business guys, or whatever the case may be, right? And he's saying, "No, come back home, home again." And then as it gets to the end, there's a peace, and you hear it in the song.
Wow.
And you love the end,
Yeah,
right?
bro, it's powerful.
Hey,
Hey,
this
look.
girl goes on a run.
Y'all would say amen, because this when you hear the end of that song, the doors of the church are now open.
Yeah.
It's that kind of vibe.
Yeah. But
It's real.
You
It's
hear
real.
you hear and you feel a peace that comes over this man.
Yep.
And he's on a different path. He's on the Lord's path.
Yep.
That's what we're portraying. You're on
Amen.
the Lord's path. And that's what we've experienced. And
Yep.
and I truly believe that God wants to take you on the adventure of a lifetime.
All right.
And too many of us, we get in the way.
Yeah.
You know, we get scared. Parable of the talents. Go
Yeah.
back to it.
Yep.
We get scared and we bury it, or we hide it, or we grip it, and we say, "I was nervous, Lord. I didn't know what to do. I told you to invest it. I told you to steward it. I told you to take care of it."
Yeah.
That's our challenge. That's our call.
And what a timely thing, you know, just one last thought, because this is a lot. We always get in these moments, we just get so much, the Spirit starts speaking to us, man. And even too, I think just the world, man, around us, bro, the cultural situation, you know, we're in a place where people are really needing to hear, like, this kind of message, right? This kind of paradigm shift is what we've seen so much fear, bro, like the last 12 months with the
Yeah.
pandemic and the hope of a vaccine now being on the horizon, even being distributed as we speak, you know, and it's just, man, what an opportunity for us as Christ followers to point people to Jesus, to point them to the hope, right, that is in Him, and not just like, you know, a broad stroke, but a real specific, like, here's Christ in your situation, Mr. Entrepreneur, Mr. CEO, right, Mr. Manager, Mrs. CEO, wherever you at, there is a space of freedom for you, and folks need this right now, man. They really do. Hope you guys are encouraged, man. This was encouraging for me.
Yeah. I think before you move, submit it to the King. Submit it to the true CEO.
Yeah, that's
submit
good.
it to Him. And see where He leads you, you know, because mine's been a 6-year journey now,
Yeah, wow.
you know, and so I'm speaking on things like they've happened very quickly, but it's been a journey.
Yeah, bro.
But
Process.
It's been a process,
Oh.
but I think He loves the process, you know, because we have to depend on Him constantly. In a process, you got to depend on Him
Yeah, you got to trust.
forever and ever, right?
Yeah.
It's not a one and done kind of thing. Just because He told me to hire all 3 doesn't mean I've tuned Him out.
Right.
And said, "All right, Lord, you gave me the keys, and
Yeah.
I'm good now." No,
Come on.
He still wants to. He still wants to be right there, co-piloting or driving or whichever way you want to look at it.
Right.
He wants to be there all the way through,
That's a good word.
and you know, I think He has so much more for us, so much more that we don't even realize or recognize.
Mm-hmm.
So, man, listen to this song and then go out, be the epicenter of the boat. If you liked what you heard today on The Epicenter, be sure and click that subscribe button down below and click the bell so that you're notified whenever we drop new content. Also, be sure to connect with us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And know that you can find all of our episodes on your favorite platform, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Now go out, be the epicenter of the boat.